When we started in 1947, 80% people were poor. But that time, our population was 30 crore. Now, our population is 140 crore. And last month, 15th, we are number one in the world. We are number one in the world in the sense we have the maximum population now. We have left behind China and our population is increasing at more rate than China. Then disability is another issue, which lot of us face in the society. Then road accidents. We have maximum road accidents in India compared to the whole world. Shanty towns. A lot of people living in slums and other undesirable areas. Then violence. Violence in the society. Violence at the home. Something needs to be done about that. Then the beggars. Then racism. You just name it. There are plenty of the problems and we have to address them. A lot of people ask me, why can't we do it? Why can't government give money? The real fact is, where's the money? Or where are the resources? If you want to spend money, even like these days we are talking about sustainable development goals, you need lot of money to achieve them. Where's the money? I got this slide from US. In US, by stakeholders, corporations or the companies have $20.1 trillion, government 3.1 trillion, non-profits 1.2 trillion. If you see really, the money is with the corporates. That's why the first C of the CSR. Why we are doing it in India? At one time, government accepted, they can't reach to all the people. It's just impossible for them to reach everybody. This way, we made it mandatory that the companies, the corporates, they have to spend 2% of their net profit for last 3 financial years on CSR. This slide, just to convey that idea. What is CSR? I won't elaborate on that because there are plenty of definitions. I picked this one from United Nations Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO. As per this definition, CSR is a management concept like marketing, finance, strategy. It's also a management concept which integrates social and environmental concerns. Of late, you might have come across this definition and discussion about ESG, environment, social, and governance. Here, we are talking more about social. It is generally understood the way through which a company achieves a balance of economic, environmental, and social imperatives. When we try to do a balance of ESG in broad term, it's CSR. My friend John Elkington, he also called it triple bottom line approach, where we try to address three P's: people, planet, and profit, and meeting expectations of shareholders and stakeholders. It's called stakeholder theory, where we try to address interests or concerns of all the stakeholders. Call it any name. From corporate citizenship to corporate sustainability to responsible business to responsible investment, corporate accountability, environmental, social, and governance issues, and what lot of companies follow, like Nestle. They call it creating shared value, where they are trying to address concerns of all the stakeholders to achieve a balance where everybody profits. Or if to you profit is a bad word, everybody wins in the battle. Then John's triple bottom line: profit, people, and planet. When I talk about it, I talk about profit first. You like it or you don't like it. For me, magic word is profit. First you earn profit, then you spend it on CSR. Then corporate responsibility, what we also call in Broadway sustainability. Call it any words. In broader sense, what we are talking about, we are talking about corporate social responsibility. In India, since we had this pressing need where we are not able to address problems of all the people, all the stakeholders, and especially the poor. We have 135 aspirational districts, most poor district, where the development has not reached. That's where, when we had a new Company Act, what we call now Company Act 2013, before this, last one was in 1956. The new Company Act had a clause 135 under Chapter 9, Accounts of Companies. It's called Corporate Social Responsibility. Clause 135 contains 5 sub-clauses, and it has a Schedule 7 of the Companies Act, which talks about activities of CSR. My message: Company Act 2013, Clause 135, Schedule 7 gives you what all you can do as projects in CSR. And this was the first time in the world some country has done it. As I was mentioning, these are the 3 conditions: net profit of 5 crores or more, or turnover of 1000 crores or more, or a net worth of INR 500 crore or more. In short, if you fulfill any company which comes under any of these conditions, it has to spend money on CSR. What has happened till now? Till 1920, 21,349 companies had spent about 1 lakh crores. It's 10 years now, and spending must be around 1 lakh 50,000 crores, which is a big money. With these companies have to spend, and then our law gives a definition to CSR now. Please understand, it depends which hat I wear. If I'm talking to a international audience, this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about ESG people bottom line. But when I'm talking to my Indian brothers and sisters, what I'm talking about? We have drawn boundaries basically. Now CSR in Indian context as a definition, CSR means the activities undertaken by a company in pursuance of its statutory obligation laid down in section 135 of the Act in accordance with the provisions contained in these rules, but shall not include. I've taken it from 22nd January 2021 notification. Now we do have a Indian definition for CSR, where you have to follow and do the statutory obligations laid down in section 135. This slide is very important to me to understand the nuances. What are nuances? You hear to a ghazal? I like Ghulam Ali. There's a ghazal of Ghulam Ali. कोई ताजा हवा चली है अभी. Then when he says taza hawa, he talks like as if fresh air is blowing. In ghazal, that's called nuances. वो छोटे छोटे नुक्ते जो उसमें होते हैं. Similarly, when I talk about CSR, first I want to know who are my audiences. मेरी audience कौन सी है? What are their level of understanding and they what they want from me. Go to the left corner. When I talk internationally or CSR in general, what I am talking about? I'm talking about labor, I'm talking about environment, and I'm talking about human rights. You can see the guiding principles on business and human rights. It's a UN document with the countries and companies all have to follow. Then I'm talking about corporate governance. I'm talking about anti-corruption. When I put them in the framework of people, profit, and planet, what I'm talking about? I'm talking about sustainability. You can see that yellow portion in this slide. Now, when I want to translate it, it translates into four things. First and the foremost, you have to ensure employee welfare. Then second, you have to engage with stakeholders. Then promote human rights and support inclusive growth. Now, when I am talking about to you, I'm talking about Company Act 2013. I'm talking about to support that inclusive growth where all the brothers and sisters of India, they get developed. I'm talking to you about reducing this gap between the rich and the poor and also supporting the poor, which I call sport inclusive growth. That's where I'm talking about 2%. Now, when I'm talking to you, I have drawn boundaries now. Boundaries in the sense, at least I won't go beyond these boundaries. These boundaries, when I look at it, the Company Act 2013, I call them Schedule 7. Very briefly, why so important? Let me look back. थोड़ा सा पीछे मुड़ के देखते हैं. What has happened till now? We have been spending from 2016-17, where it was about 14,000 plus crores. It has increased to 2021 by 24,865 crores. Number of companies, around 21,000. See the last column. Number of projects. Number of projects has increased from 23,000 to almost 36,000. I'll call you. The number of projects have increased from 22,000 to almost 36,000. That means number of projects have increased. That's where it becomes very important. Now what you are talking about. This year, you'll be talking about 45,000 crore, 45,000 projects. A number of projects which are increasing with the year. All the companies, they are spending more and more. Chacha Group, 1,000 plus crores. RIL, Infosys, ITC, Wipro, Hindustan Zinc, SCL, Hindustan Unilever, GAIL, and you name a company, they're all spending a lot of money. This is their contribution in FY, financial year 21. A lot of money and a lot of projects. About 45,000 projects and about 25,000 crore rupees. A lot of people ask me a question. Does only companies who make profit, they spend on CSR? My answer is no. Here, I'm showing you which a lot of companies, who make laws, they also do CSR. If I'm talking to you about BRR, BRSR, sustainability report, integrated report, there's a 90% chance I will quote, I will take these reports for reference from Tata Motors, but they don't make profit. And they do one of the best reporting and documentation. Does all the money spent on armed veterans, sports, all get money? Where maximum money is spent? Maximum money in CSR goes to the 12th states like Maharashtra, Gujarat, Andhra, Karnataka. Least money goes towards Bihar, Northeast. And this is one issue which we keep on debating, where we always say the money has to be given to the aspiration districts, in the poor districts, poor areas, and to the most vulnerable, जो लाइन में सबसे पीछे खड़ा है. The man at the bottom of the pyramid, we have to give them the money. That's one issue. Better call it a concern, where money doesn't reach really to the poor people. That geographical bias is there, as you can see in this map. It goes more towards 12 states. And in 12 states also, what happens in Maharashtra? Mumbai gets the maximum. Vidarbha gets the least. So in a state where a lot of CSR money comes, it is spent more in the rich area. Which are the pockets and where the money is spent? Maximum goes towards education. Then rural development, health. Some of you may like to know why this happens. See, when we started our companies, we went to the very remote area, and then slowly around that, villages, towns, then cities started coming up. Take example of Jamshedpur. It was a small place where it started coming up as a big, now it's a big city. Now, when companies started, they had to take care of their staff because they were falling sick and all. So they started health activities. It still remains one of the major ones. Then they went around and they had their staff. They had to take care of their staff's children education. That's how projects started in education. And then they had to do something for the villagers or the communities around also. That's why they also came into education. Most of these were in rural area. That's where rural development, that became one of the major activities. Sector-wise, education, health, and rural development, they receive almost 50%. And then it keeps on decreasing for other activities. These are the activities as defined by Schedule 7. Please understand one thing. They are very much related to sustainable development goals. Right from eradicating hunger and poverty If you go to sustainable development goals also, one goal is end poverty. Then promote education, SDG 4, gender equality, SDG 5, protection of natural heritage, then benefit to veteran, the army, then environment. You have to spend projects. There are plenty of projects in environment. Technology incubators, lot of companies, right from Tata's to HCL, they spend a lot on technology incubators. Rural sports has come up of late, and then rural development. If you don't want to do anything, give it to PM National Relief Fund. Then from time to time, we started with these 10, and then from time to time, we have moved to others. Through notifications, we keep on adding slum area, disaster management, Swachh Bharat, Clean Ganga, Corona-related programs. Even you can make a makeshift hospital also. Then paramilitary armies, R&D in Corona. For me, it's more important what you cannot do. Practically, otherwise, everything is included. What you cannot do in CSR is activity outside India, contribution to political party, rehabilitation and resettlement, employee welfare, and one-time program like marathons and all. So we have drawn these boundaries. Otherwise, within these boundaries, you can do everything. Take home one of the important things. All this has to be done in a project mode. When I say project mode, what it means? Project mode means need-based assessment, baseline survey, clearly identify timeframes, specific annual milestones, measurable objectives, and robust periodic review. We teach that in MBA. It's similar like managing a technology project, and then at the end of it, you have to get evaluation and assessment. Now it's compulsory to get it by a third party. With time, government has added lot of new things. Right from Tiranga, the one which were flying in our houses and all, you can spend your CSR money there. You can make a makeshift hospital. So lot of things have been allowed through notifications from time to time. What's the mechanism for doing it? You are a company. You fall in these criteria where you have to do CSR. You can do it yourself or form a trust society or a Section 8 company. Three major ways of doing CSR: form a trust, form a society, or form a Section 8 company. You must have CSR 1, which means 12A and 80G. If you're own, then no need for 3 years track record. Otherwise, if you're doing it through others, especially NGOs, you have to track their 3 years record. Let me see in the chat. Please share PPT in group. Okay. If you are registered of late from 1st April 2021, If it's doing through NGOs and others, you have to register with the MCA through filling CSR1. This is how it has been implemented. By trust, so Section 8 company said by the company, 2% money has been spent. Directly by company, 34%. Other implementing agency, 43%. And by trust, so it is Section 8 company said by the company itself, 10%. Why this is important? This is important because you will note almost 44% money has been spent by the companies directly by the company or by the through their foundation or trust. Spending with through NGOs and others has been to the tune of 34%. All these companies, they do excellent job, and you can find their website. And it's now compulsory for the companies to report on their projects, whatever they done, and if the amount is 1 crore or more, they have to get impact assessment and put it on their website. There's a message. Let me see it. This way, kindly share the video. Sure. So all the companies are doing a great job. You can go to their website, find out what projects they are doing, how much they are spending on that, and then they have to report on this also. What have been the results and others? So I think my time is over. It's almost 4:40. I'll stop sharing here and back to the organizers. Thank you, Sharma ji. Sharma ji, back to you. If any question, anybody, you can ask me question.
Can you listen to me?
Yes.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Shri Ram ji.
बहुत बहुत बधाई है आपके हो. You did a very wonderful presentation in a very short span. Indeed, I would like to place on record your contribution to even ordinary people. People need not be professionals. Even persons with basic commercial knowledge can understand your urge, your sincerity to develop this sustainable development growth.
Yes, sir.
Which is not only in India, it is a global phenomena as on date.
Yes.
Almost all United Nations is working on this vigorously, because the schedule more than 50% of the time set in the new 2015 resolutions is elapsed. So we have to rush up, we have to gear up and see that whoever passed with resolutions, their dreams have to be reality. For that, I am with you. Anytime you can call me or interact with me. I am ready to work for you, because I am basically now a detached man working for the society in my limited view, in my limited what you call capacity. So these type of things really inspire me and what you call provokes me to write articles in newspapers. I do write every week one article basically on economics, but this is a new subject for many of the Indians. I will
Sure.
just check with the editor-in-chief of my magazine, who is patronizing me, to give me an opportunity to write. So
Sure.
for that, may I request you to share this today's presentation to my mail ID, sir? I have
Sure,
already
sir.
requested in my what you call
Sure, sir.
chat.
Sure, Shri Ramji.
Hmm.
Okay, sir. Then I say
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद
thank you, Shri Ramji.
आपको आपको बहुत धन्यवाद धन्यवाद जी.
Thank you.
Yes, so thank you so much, KK Upadhyay sir. Thank you very much, sir, for such a nice and wonderful session. So, our next faculty, Lata Suresh ma'am is already joined us. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, yeah.
बात की बॉस तो बना रहा था ना, अभी क्या है नया चेंज किया है?
Can I start or waiting for something else?
Yes, ma'am. Please, ma'am.
Okay.
I just enabled screen sharing. You can present your presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you, sir.
good evening, all of you. It's very nice to see all of you virtually in this Zoom platform. And it's really very nice to know that so many of you who are not directly involved in the social sector are now getting involved to know much about the CSR and the social sector. It's very inspiring. So basically, we've been doing a lot of assessments in social of the social CSR projects and social work organizations. So based on that, we have some experience on how to do the monitoring and evaluation, and also the do strategic planning for the CSR projects. So I was given the topic to do on monitoring and evaluation of CSR projects. Can you all see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Screen is off, please. Now it is on.
Thank you. Okay, so the topic given to me is basically monitoring and evaluation of CSR projects, and I come from an organization called the Social Audit Network India. We've been involved in a lot of social audit and social impact studies across India for the last last 18 years. We are the Indian chapter of the Social Audit Network, UK, and we have a lot of methods through which we do the social impact assessment. So you had a nice session, previous session. I was also listening to what Dr. Upadhyay was telling, and he was talking to you. He took you on an introduction to what is CSR. So basically, as you all know, CSR is a self-regulating business model that helps the company to be socially accountable, not only to itself, but also to the stakeholders it works to, and also to society. So that's the most important thing here. So it is a lot of things. CSR is about corporate citizenship. It's about corporate responsibility. It is about also how responsibly they do their business, how responsibly they invest, how they bring about sustainability, not only corporate sustainability, but also working towards environment sustainability. And then he talked about the triple bottom line, where we have to focus on the social, the environment, and the economic impacts that each organization creates. So all these are all part of what CSR is all about. It's also a lot about governance issues because now the policies are there, and every organization, as he said, is mandated to spend at least 2% of their profits towards this. So it is also the relationship or the interdependence you have between a company and the wider society with which it operates. Generally, you find that CSR is done. If it is a factory based organization, they do CSR activities in and around the factories where they work, so that they also try to do something good for the society around them. But also there are projects where they can do wherever they feel it is good, like the Swachh Bharat mission can be taken across India. So it's not only where it operates but also outside, but that's how it started. And most of the CSR started like that, like he talked about Jamshedpur, how it started and how it is now. So what Tata started in a small way is now what is reflected in all the CSR activities now. So the topic for me is basically monitoring and evaluation. And this is all, I think, the legal requirements. He's already told you all about how you need to spend 2% of the average if your net worth is above 500 crores or your turnover is above 1,000 crores or your net profit is above 5 crores. The most important thing is you have to make your CSR policy. It has to be made public and it has to be uploaded in the website of the company. You have to form a CSR committee, which is very important. There should be 3 or more directors and 1 independent director. Then you have to basically evolve what is called a CSR strategy. So all organizations, so when you go and talk to other organizations which are doing CSR, you'll have to ask them, do you have a strategy report? So what is your CSR strategy? What are you planning to do? And then based on the CSR strategy, they then implement the CSR activities. Either directly they can do it or they use implementing partners or NGOs to implement it. So this is how CSR activities are then. And then at the end of the year, the CSR reporting is done, where the organization, the CSR heads will have to collate all the activities that's being done and create what is called a social impact assessment report and tell the world how it has created impact on the societies it is serving on. So this is the basic few steps requirements for the CSR. So when you need to see, so at the end of it, you start planning and then you have to keep monitoring and then you have to report. So in this process, the monitoring and evaluation becomes very important. So that's why I think this topic has been given exactly after how CSR, after you know about CSR, you should also know how it is to be monitored. So what is monitoring? When you talk about monitoring, monitoring is a regular check on how the project is being done. Whether you start with, you say, I'm going to feed 100 people throughout this year, then you have to start checking, okay, how many did you feed this month? Next month, how many did you feed? So like that, you keep monitoring on the progress that you have been doing towards a particular activity. So it is a continuous examination. So if you start with the project till its end, every regular the cross examination or the examination or the investigation which you're doing of the project is what is called the monitoring. So your continuous examination of the implementation progress is what is saying. So that's why you need to know the strategic planning initially. So what were you intending to do? Suppose this particular activity, CSR activity, says that in 1 year, I should provide free spectacles for 1,000 people. So then every month you should know how many camps did you conduct, how many how many spectacles were distributed, with which organization are you going to implement, with which organization are you going to implement, and who are going to be your implementing partners, how are you going to keep track of the progress. All these things you need to know. So only if you know all that, you will be able to monitor it. So this is how monitoring is done. You will have to generate data and information on the performance so that you know that, okay, what went right and what went wrong. So probably you'll say the first month I did only 100 spectacles. The next month I could not do even 50 because probably it was a rainy season. You never know. People never came to the camp. Then you know why you went wrong. So by monitoring, you'll know whether what you wanted to do is being done or why it is not being done. And you can also do corrective measures. So the next year, you know that during rainy seasons, I should not have a camp because in spite of me spending so much money, the turnout rate is very less. So the monitoring helps you to take corrective measures also. So that is what monitoring is about. And what gets monitored is more likely to get done. So definitely I'm going to monitor the number of camps, and then the number of camps will be done. So if you don't monitor, you cannot tell success from failure. That's the most important thing. So monitoring is very, very, very important. And if you can't see success, you can't reward it, obviously. So if you see that you failed somewhere, then you have to do something to do corrective action. But if you feel okay, then something went wrong, at least you have to do something right now. So if you can't demonstrate results, you can't sustain your support for your actions. So that is why monitoring becomes very, very important, because ultimately you need to have support for the actions that you're doing, and you need to report on the impact that you're going to do also. So the data for monitoring is about what is your intended achievements and the baseline. So baseline is you start with 0 and then you achieve up to 100, whatever. In case of these, the example which I took about donating spectacles or something. You started with nothing, but then you're going to say, I'm going to start giving spectacles on a regular basis, and I want to do it in a regular basis, say 100 per month or 300 per month or whatever. So your intent, all these achievements that you're going to do, that is basically the data for the reporting, is gathered only through monitoring. And you can also compare the data with the actual achievements. There are two things: you plan to do something and you do something. So within the planned versus achieved, that is something which you can also talk about when you have a regular monitoring process in place. So it also helps you to identify the significant deviations from the plan. Like I said, suppose we do it or do a camp on a rainy season, it fails, but you're doing it during the school holidays. There are many people who are coming, so you're able to identify when you should do and when you should not do. All this will also give you it helps you to identify that, and also it also gives you a basis for identifications of problems and achievements, and directly it helps you to implement corrective actions. Without doing this corrective actions, you'll be doing the same thing, and the impact will not be seen. You will say, I'll do 100 per month, and you just keep doing 100. You might achieve the target, you might not achieve the target. But here you should analyze why you achieved the target, why you did not achieve the target, and according to it, you bring about corrective actions, and you're going to be more successful and impactful. The word evaluation is something different from monitoring. So when you do an evaluation, it is what you do, it's the value that you give at the end of the project. So after 1 year, what you do is called an evaluation. So it's done only at the end, but monitoring is done regularly during the course of the activity. So evaluation is a value placed on the project, usually at the end or interim. So there are two types of evaluation. If it's a long-term project, suppose you are going to do a project for 2-3 years, you can also do an interim evaluation every year, just to identify whether every year you can do a small evaluation, which we call as an interim evaluation. But if your project cycle is just a year, it's enough if you can do it after a year. If it's for a longer duration projects, we also do what is called an interim, which is done on an annual basis. It's also not done every quarter or something. You don't do evaluations every quarterly, you only do monitorings like that. So the key element is the assessment conducted at a single point in time. It is done before, during, or after. That's what evaluation is about. But as I told you, monitoring is done every month or once in 2 months or every quarterly, something like that. But this is done at a single point in time, especially at the end. And it focuses on determining whether what was planned, what you really wanted to do in your CSR strategic plan, what you thought you should do, have you really achieved it, or why it happened or why it not happened. All that will be reported in an evaluation report. So what do we do why do we evaluate basically? So what are the things that we do when we talk about evaluation? We check whether the project is very relevant. Was it really meant for that particular group of people to whom you did? For instance, the same case of donating spectacles. Were you going to the people who really needed it? In the rural areas, people are unaware of doing a regular eye checkup. You can go and do it to them because they will really value it. But if you're going to do it in some other place where everybody knows about it, then the turnaround rate would also be less and you won't know. So whether it was relevant, whether whatever you're doing is going to the right persons, that relevance is what you get when you do an evaluation. The impact is another thing which you can gather when you do an evaluation of the project. Also, how effective it was, whether what you really wanted to do has been achieved. That is effectiveness. What you propose to do and what you've achieved, whether it has really been done, is what you're called as effectiveness. And efficiency is the cost efficiency, whether it was very cost effective or did you spend too much of money, what happened, how efficient was cost efficiency, time efficiency, all that is what we can also gather when we do a evaluation. And how sustainable is it? Will you, suppose you're doing a project in an area and suppose you leave that project after a year, will the people still continue to reap the benefits that you had given them? Is it going to be sustainable, or the minute you walk away from them, they go back to their original condition? That is what it is called sustainability. So are you creating a lasting change in that place? So these are the 5 things that we try to assess when we do an evaluation. How relevant the project was, how impactful it was, how effective it was, how efficient it was, and how sustainable the project would be. So the difference between monitoring and evaluation is basically, monitoring is data collected on the program activities, like whether it was done. It is about the role of the CSR, whether he did the programs, whether the camps were done properly, whether it's ongoing, whether the routine things are being done, where all the programs being done. Then it is most importantly focusing on the activities of the project only. It is not talking about the target. You set out to do 2000 spectacles, but you every time you do a monitoring, you will say how many you did. This month I did 20, the next month I did 300, the next month I did 55. So that is only the activities which are being monitored. And are we doing the things right? So the answer to these 2 questions are there when you do monitor. Are we doing the things right? Are we doing the work that we planned? These answers you will get when you're monitoring. But evaluation is data collected to answer specific questions. So I said, no, the relevance, the efficiency, the effectiveness. So these questions you ask when you do an evaluation. How relevant was this program? Will it be sustainable? So all those questions will be answered when you do an evaluation, and it is done periodic. As I said, either at the end of the year, or if it is a long-term project, in an interim evaluation can be done. And the focus is more on the outcome and not the activities like monitoring is. It's more on the outcome. Did the people who receive the spectacles benefit from it? Are they wearing it regularly? Have the incidences of headache reduced? Or are they able to go back to work properly? Are they able to continue with their work effectively? So these are all the impact a spectacle has on these people. So we have to focus on that. By giving the spectacles, what happened to your life? How has it changed your life? So that is a focus on an evaluation. So the questions that evaluation would answer is, are we doing the right things? How effective we were doing these activities? Or are there better ways? Because you might come out with saying that the target was not achieved, or you could say that some corrective measures had to be taken. Then what are the corrective measures that could be taken? So you come out with recommendations to strengthen the impact of your program also. So an evaluation will help you to do that. So are there better ways of achieving the result is what you are able to say. So the purpose of M&E is basically to track the resources, to get feedback on the progress, to improve the project effectiveness, to give informed decisions to the committee and to the management, to promote accountability of the work done by the CSR project. Definitely the most important thing is to demonstrate impact. By doing an M&E, you will be able to come out with your social impact assessment report and talk to people about how many lives you have impacted, what were the great things that you've done. It could have been something for the environment, it could be something for the school, it could be something for the hospital, whatever. Whichever activity you're involved in, how the impact has been created by you. That can be easily demonstrated if you have a proper M&E in place. And also identify the lessons learned, which is very important. See, we are all in this process of social impact assessment, we are always trying to prove the work we do and also improve the work we do. So proving and improving is the most important thing, and M&E will help you do both proving of the good work that you do and also help you to improve the work that you do. So this is the purpose why we do monitoring and evaluation. And who conducts these monitoring and evaluation? The monitoring is typically done by the organization itself. That is self-motivated. You will have to do it for yourself. So you have to have proper structures in place, proper reporting formats in place to do the monitoring, to find whether the things are going as per schedule. Evaluation is generally done by an external party because they will be the ones who will be able to tell you whether it is done correctly. So evaluation is always an external, done by an external party. But there could be also self-evaluation if you are going to be very, you're not very judgmental, or you're not going to be very biased with what you're doing or what others are doing. You can also have it self-evaluation could also be done depending on the objectives where you want, because you want to understand how to further your work, do much better. Then you can also do a self-evaluation without being judgmental and biased. That can also be done. But generally, evaluation reports are done by third party. So, and also monitoring, though I say it is typically done by the organizations, there are some organizations who also ask others to do the external monitoring, people to come and do it, so that they'll be able to give them corrective measures right and when they find that there are some problems there. So both is possible. But typically monitoring is done by is self-monitoring, and external evaluation is how it works mostly. So what you need to do to have these M&E for CSR projects is you should have a program framework. The program framework should be there so that we can understand what the organization is doing all about in the CSR space, what are the projects they are implementing, what are the key elements that we need to be, then only we'll know what are the elements to do the monitoring and evaluation about. It helps you to identify that. Unless you have the program framework, you will not be able to do. And also understand, after knowing that only you will know how to do it. So how can I measure the impact? So what are the tools I need to have for monitoring and evaluation is all basically dependent highly on the program framework that is there. And then it's always nice to have a M&E framework right at the start of the organization, start of the implementation of the project itself, so that you can periodically monitor, and you can also do the data collection and analysis then and there. And it helps you in creating the evaluation. It also helps the evaluator to do the report because you have all the data in place. So that's how the framework works. So basically what you need to know is, you need to know what is called the impact map. So ultimately what the evaluation is all about, how impactful the CSR project was. So there are two things over here. This is called an impact map. What is put into the project is what is called the input, and the activities that you do is also called an input. The project's primary activities to produce social value. So suppose, as I told you, suppose giving away spectacles, doing eye cams and giving away spectacles is your activity. Outputs will be the number of spectacles I gave. Outcomes will be how it helped these people go back to school, the child was able to read properly, all that will be the outcomes. Impact is in a larger run. After 2 years, you go back to that boy and say, had I not given you the specs today, what would you? He'd say, I'd have probably dropped out of school because I couldn't see the board at all. And my motivation to go to school was there, but now because the spectacles is there, I'm able to read and I'm motivated to study. Could be a larger impact, we never know. So all these are what you should know. What are the inputs, the activities, the outputs, the outcomes, and the impact. For instance, as I told you, the foreign health eye camp, the output would be the number of children detected with eye problems, and the outcome is restoration of the vision. For an organization that works with running small tuition centers or after school centers, the outputs could be the number of children regularly attending the classes, the number of teachers, the number of tuition centers, all that are quantifiable are called outputs. And all the outcomes are the outcomes, that is the changes that the beneficiary experiences as a result of the project. So what happens, because he attends a tuition class, he has better results in the examination, and he's able to understand basics of maths and science. It's a basic outcome. So that is an immediate outcome. The impact will be he's able to his motivational level to go to school. That will be a larger impact. But basically you have to work on creating the small outcomes. Suppose you run a skills training center, what is the outcomes will be the number of youth with added skill sets, but the outcome will be immediately after you do a skill training program, they become employable. So that is the immediate outcome. So whether the placement has happened, suppose it is a solar installation, number of households with uninterrupted power, you get, that is the main important output. And the most important outcome for that will be the increased monthly savings due to lower energy costs. You don't no need to pay for electricity bills. So with that money, you can do something efficiently for the family. So these are the small outcomes that you can do. This is how for each activity, you should know to map the output, outcome, and the impact. So so at this point of time, we should ask the right questions. What are the indicators that we should use to measure and monitor each stage of the project? How should the information be collected? How to measure the quality and effectiveness? All these questions, the person who is doing the monitoring and evaluation should have the answers to all these questions. Then only he'll be able to come out with a good M&E plan. How and when to communicate findings to managers, how do we assess the benefits and impacts produced by the project, how to assess whether the pilot projects have been successful. Generally, CSR projects, they do a pilot in one place, they try to see whether it is really benefited, and then they take it out to many other places. So are the pilot projects, how successful is it? Can it be scaled up, or can it be replicated in many places, is what it will help you to guide. So it's better to have an approximate answer to the right question than have an exact answer to the wrong question. So what you ask is very important, and what you need to know is very important. You just have to have the right questions and the right answers for it, which will really help you in the M&E path. So how do you do is, you do a lot of desk review, you find out what has happened at the organization, they'll have a lot of reports. This is how the evaluation is done. So we gather all the projects or the reports, that the monthly reports they have, or if there are any project documents, those things we have to review. And then we go and talk to the key stakeholders. That's called the key informant interviews. Go and talk to them, ask them whether they really benefited out of it. Did they get, if it is a tuition center, you go to those children and ask them what were they doing if they were not studying here, how has it helped them, or you directly go and talk to them. You can have focus group discussions, call all the children together and ask questions and get the answers to them. Or you can do sample surveys and try to get feedback from all of them. So basically, evaluation is highly dependent on feedback that you receive from the beneficiaries. So what is the feedback, the right feedback or the wrong feedback? In case they have something negative to say, then how can you make the negatives into positive is what your recommendation should be. Probably they'll say, we are finding it very difficult to come walking from our houses to the tuition center. Then you should think of starting more tuition centers within the village where many children can come. Or if they say there's no light, then probably you can provide a solar light or something like that. So anything negative is not necessarily bad, but it is something which will help you to do something better about it. Because they are only telling the need, and that need will be served if you were able to get these feedbacks and it will be implemented. So basically, there are 10 steps to this. You conduct a readiness assessment, you agree. All this is what are the 10 steps generally for building and monitoring an evaluation system within an organization. Find out the key indicators, gather baseline data, then how are you going to plan for improvement? Suppose you find what you thought was not happening, how are you going to try to make your changes in the program, how monitor the results, using evaluation information, reporting the findings, using the findings, and sustaining them. In the first 1 year, it might be difficult when you create the framework, but after that, it becomes a cakewalk. So it's easy for you to report on the impact that you do if you have all these M&E steps in place. So that's it from me. Any questions?
Have you, madam?
Yeah.
Have you done this review and evaluation for any Hyderabad company?
Yeah, we have done. We have been working closely with Dr. Reddy's Foundation.
Oh,
And then there are many, the Smile Train project. We've done a lot.
oh, okay, good. No,
Some,
I have a small,
yeah.
tell me.
No, there are
No,
many
even,
other projects which were implemented for the Swachh Bharat in many places in Karim Nagar and all that. We've done a lot because we have a base in Hyderabad, so we've done a lot.
oh, good, good. My doubt is
Hmm.
this COVID-19 development is also included in this program, isn't it?
Yeah, now we
So,
have a separate section.
No, yes, my point is the companies who developed and produced the vaccine, namely that Bharat Biotechnologies, I think,
Hmm.
entire their expenditure is comes under CSR because they have been doing this job exclusively. So
Okay.
whatever they do, can we take it as 100% CSR done by the company?
See, it all depends on the intent of the company. If the company says that they're providing it free or it is being provided at a very subsidized rate,
Yeah.
then it can become a CSR. But if they are going to sell it at a profit and all that, then you cannot call it a CSR initiative. It all depends
Okay.
on how the end thing has
Company,
happened.
yeah, pass on the benefit to the
Yes.
end user.
Yes.
Yes, yes. Good. Thank you.
Yeah. So anybody else who wants to ask a question, or we can stop now?
Lataji,
Yes, Dr. Padya.
so nice to hear you, the precise and the way you explained it. It was
Thank
amazing.
you.
It shows your experience and all. For the benefit of the people,
Yes.
I will just like to ask you, like, what we are talking about here, we are talking about social audit, basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So my question to you, or for the on behalf of these people, how M&E is related to social audit as such?
Yeah, so if there is an M&E in place, it's very useful for a social audit because ultimately the social auditor will have to also, what an evaluator does is what a auditor is going to do. But whether, so you need to have these things in place. If the report is there and if all the indicators are there and the processors are in place, it's very easy for the auditor to go and do the auditing. So, if organizations are regularly having an M&E process in place, the work for an auditor becomes very easy.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, my
that's the
message
whole
to
project. The whole problem is most of the NGOs don't have this mechanism, but now the CSRs are all into keeping right monitoring and evaluation because they are mandated to report on impact every year. So
yes,
they have to keep track of what they are doing. But no NGO is mandated to report on impact. It is, it's only self-evaluation and self-monitoring which they are doing. They are doing it for themselves, or if the donor asks, they are able to do it. Otherwise, it is not mandatory. The minute everything becomes mandatory, rules will come, processes will be followed, all that will happen. So now that if social audit is going to become mandatory for the NGOs who are going to register in the social stock exchange. So they should know about the processes that they should keep for monitoring and how to evaluate and all. So unless these things are in place, the social audit will be difficult. If it is in place, it's a cakewalk for the social auditor.
yes. Very nicely explained. Any
Thank
other
you.
question from anybody?
I think the next session starts now. So
Sure. So
anything you
nice
can
to meet
please
you,
email
Lataji.
to me.
So nice to meet you. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. Thank you, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, so thank you so much, Lata Suresh ma'am. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you.
So, yes, ma'am. So our next faculty join within 5 minutes. So you can take 5 minutes break. By 5:20. So once again, good evening to everyone. So our next faculty for the session, Yudhishthir Panigari sir, is already joined us. I welcome him to you, sir, and good evening, sir.
Yeah. Good evening, namaskar.
So I think, sir, most of the participant is already joined us. So please, sir, start your session. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. Good evening. Namaste. I'm audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for this opportunity. Actually, I'm Judhishthir Panigrahi and I'm based at Bhubaneswar, and hope you are all able to view my screen. It is visible to all.
Yes, sir.
So I am doing this session on behalf of Changescape, one organization which is actually a Delhi-based organization, and I'm working with Changescape, which is a consulting organization to providing end-to-end solution to the different organization. Even the CSR project also we are doing. We are providing support for evaluation, baseline, and all project monitoring support, and also the capacity building, the training part we are doing. And it is actually a consultancy organization, and then we bring the experts from different fields. Whatever the assignment is, based on that assignment, we always bring expert from that particular field to provide a high quality service to our clients. And also we combine our sector and domain expertise with strategic thinking to help achieve maximum impact. So I joined before 10 minutes of the last session, so that I know that what is to actually link this session with my session. So the madam has already covered the MND monitoring and evaluation part, the processes and different thing. And I was also requested for the topic, the evaluation and also the best practices in managing the CSR projects. So what I will do, I will first just briefly talk about the evaluation part, which already various things, various aspects of that elements are covered by Madam, our last speaker. And then I will go for two example, my own experience sharing in CSR project, and if possible, because last also I I came to know about the social auditing process, and in that also I will touch upon about the social audit process, that how actually my own experience on the social audit process, what I did in one of the panchayat, one of the gram panchayat in Odisha. Actually, I'm based in Bhubaneswar, Odisha. So in this particular session, we'll talk about the definition of evaluation, then the difference between monitoring and evaluation, significance of evaluation, how evaluation fit into learning, and different methodologies of doing evaluation, best practices. Then the last one is the best practices, in which I am going to share two good example, which will help you to understand how the CSR project actually impacting the lives of the people, and how it is actually, if you'll say that the project impacted in the people's life, and also the in a big way in a different government agenda and the program, that I will share with these best practices. Actually, I'm not talking about the best practices, because best practices is, I think the topic was the best practices, but it is, I'll talk about the good practices, not the best. If it is best, then there is nothing to learn. What I believe in, that if it is a best, then there is, your learning process is end there. And in last 5-10 minutes, we'll do any questions if you have. So already the definition that UN, there are many definition, but for CSR project also there are definition, and also the development projects. And when we talk about in a globally, that we recognize the United Nations for the development process, and in that you will see that their definition is about evaluation is an examination, a systematic and objective as possible of an ongoing or completed project or program, its design, implementation, and results, with the aim to determining its efficiency, effectiveness, impact, sustainability, and relevance, which was already talked by the ma'am in last speaker. She talked about the evaluation, that why it is the efficiency, effectiveness of your whatever you have implemented. the impact, the sustainability. Here I will tell that the impact is always, it is little bit different from the evaluation, because a ongoing project, when at the end, when you are evaluating that project, that maybe some impact will come later also. And also there are the impact of both negative and the positive. Even there are different things which was you have not intended in your project activities, you have not done that, but because of your intervention, that is impacted to the lives of the different people, or there are different changes. I will give that example because I will share with different example. If you'll see that why I'm saying this, if you'll see that for the livelihood improvement of the poor people, the government of India, I know everybody had heard about that earlier. They have a national livelihood program, ULFP or NLFP, something the surname is. But in that project, they have talked about, they have provided the goatry, 2 or 3 goat to a poor household who was actually a daily wage earner. And the third, the intention was very good. The project was implemented, the goat was provided, everything. But the goat will give the after 6 months or 1 year, they give you the return. After she will give the birth, and then the goat will be, then you will sell and they will get. But today the person is actually wage earner. And what he did after this evaluation process, that result, the impact was found that because there was nobody else and he is the only wage earner of that particular family, he do the job of this wage earning jobs. He went to the work and he sent his child for the grazing of this goat. So the intention, if you'll see that here, intention is the livelihood promotion, providing livelihood to the family, but it has impacted negative to the life of his child, because another your rights or the education rights was denied, and the children is engaged in the grazing work. So why I'm saying this? So because of that, if you'll see that the impact is very important, and how it is your intended or unintended impact after your project is completed. So actually evaluation already is done because to guide your decision maker who is taking the decision for different project, different social development project, or any CSR project. Uh, so because you know that these days the CSR project are implementing in different sector. There are many sector, education, maybe the livelihood, maybe the water, maybe the sanitation. There are many sectors the people are implementing different projects to provide solution to the community, providing support to the community. But at the same time, the evaluation always guide the decision makers to how the project will implement. And when we talk about why evaluation in CSR project, as you know all, that it is apart from the statutory compliance, which is evaluation plays a critical role in the statutory compliance. But apart from that, also it is assessing the effectiveness and impact of that project activities. May already have given you example, and it also helps to identify strengths and bottleneck of implementation process, because we design a project always, you know that, and this is all part of a project cycle. When you start from identifying a problem or a issue in the community or in your periphery industrial area or anywhere, so then identifying the problem, then you design a project to solve that problem, and in that you implement that project, and during the implement you do the monitoring, and also then midterm evaluation and the evaluation. So for that I will go for the detailed process, but it will also help in identifying the different bottlenecks in the implementation process, which can lead to the corrective step in designing and implementing a CSR project. So it is always help to identifying your strength area, in which the you are doing good, the project is implementing very good. There are different component in a project, and one part may be impacting or it is implemented in a good process, but other maybe it is not implemented, or there are some bottlenecks which actually not supported to implement that project or the you intended result, to get the intended result. So this is also cover, I think, the why evaluation, why we do evaluation, and any project why there is need to be evaluated. First is to actually find out its project objectives and achieve. When I talk about that, when you identify a problem, a issues, then you are actually formulating a project, and in that project, when you set the objective, the timeline, and how you achieve and what you going to achieve. So to find out, you need to evaluate. Then when you doing the evaluation, then whether it is actually your objective is fulfilled or not. Then to look at how the objective are achieved, how these objective are achieved in that process, in the implemented process. Then to find out the project has made any impact, it has made any changes in the life of the people. Then to find out if the community has been involved and in their needs were met. Always the community, when we talk, when we do any project, it is actually the benefit of the community, the last people in the society. So whether they participated in that project implementation phase, in the developing phase, and the needs, whatever the needs or whatever the issues that is solved, then to find out it was the project that made the change. How there are many things, because of other region also the issues is solved or the problem is solved, but how your project impacted, or how your project, the activities of your project made any changes, then to find out if the project has been efficient, then look out the strength and weakness, then identify the spin-off, which I talk about, that if the intended or unintended your objective or the result has been achieved. There are many things. I have given you the one negative impact. Also, there are many examples. The positive impact of the project implementation. Though you have intended to do something, that project has impacted in other firm also. That recent example I will keep in that. If we'll say that the every CSR project, the development project, the government, the NGOs talk about the hand washing, So because of this corona and other things, the if you'll see that now all the people know about the hand washing, but earlier it was like last 20-30 years in our country, we'll see that people have talked about the hand washing. But now it is because of the corona and the COVID-19, the different projects they implemented, the hand washing station and everything. So it impacted, and it impacted and changed the behavior of the people, which is actually long lasting. So that is the recent example. Also, there are many examples which actually help in different kind of changes in the people's life. Next, people see that when when we do the evaluation can be carried out at different stages in the project cycle. I talk about the project cycle, that that from the beginning to the end, and in that process, if you'll see that when the first you're looking into that, when you're doing the assessment and the planning, then implementation and monitoring, then evaluation and adaptation. Then again from the evaluation to adaptation, again you are doing the assessment and planning, then implementation and monitoring, then evaluation and adaptation. And this is the continuous process. In a project cycle, if you are implementing a project up to the last, when you now there are different models, different people are talking about the saturation model. When you reach to the last person in that society or then in the particular sector. If you are saying, for example, if you are saying that we will provide safe drinking water to each household of that particular block or particular district or particular village, then up to the when you are not reaching that means your sorry, some sound is happening. When you are not reaching to the last person or the achieving your the goal of reaching to every household, every family in that particular village, block, panchayat, wherever you are planning. So that the project is going on. So in that process, you need to, and also that if whatever the activities you have planned, the your goal is to reach, but how is the safe water is reaching every day? Is that is actually properly monitored? If people are getting on time, there are a lot of many questions is there. So you have to think about that also, and can be used to look at both process or impact in order to identify lesson learned and to assist with forward planning. When you do this evaluation, then we do also for the forward planning. We always do for the forward planning. How we'll plan if we have implemented 2 years, this project is for 2 years. We plan certain activities, and but after that also we didn't get the result. Or for example, we achieve something, but there are some bottlenecks. Because of that bottlenecks, we didn't able to achieve many activities, and we need to adopt a different kind of strategy, different kind of implementation plan, or you need to add some activities to achieve that goal or that project. So then you need to adopt and also forward. You can plan always the development project plan for the next action, their activities. And how people see that who do actually. Actually, the evaluation always by the project staff. I have the experience, I have the example of actually we did a project in different state, 2, 3 states, and we decided at that time ki no, we'll not hire a external evaluator. What we'll do, we'll exchange our people, our own staff to the different states. For example, I was at that time in Bihar, so I visited Odisha for the evaluation, and the Odisha team went to West Bengal team went to Assam, and we did a evaluation of our own project. My colleague, who is my colleague in the Assam, who he has implemented that project or she has implemented, and I went there and evaluate that project, and then we came back and we presented our findings and we learned from that. So we did a that kind of. So your project staff can also any development project staff can also do the evaluation. Then the community, where I talk about the social audit process. The community, I will share my own again my own experience in during 90 2000 2001 we did, you know, that at that time the Right to Information Act for that the first social audit process was started by Aruna Rai in Rajasthan, Tilonia Panchayat, and after that we decided to have one Gram Panchayat social audit process, and we involved the community entirely. In that particular Gram Panchayat, we took a Gram Panchayat as a unit, and in that Gram Panchayat, whoever has implemented any project in last 5 years, that may be Gram Panchayat, block, the NGOs, CSR. At that time, there was no CSR or any other private people who have any type of community work or any project they have implemented. We took the last 5 years project, and in that we formed a committee of the community member from that particular panchayat. They were headed these social audit processes. They asked for the different documents from the Gram Panchayat at that time, you know, so there was no soft copy or something. So we did all the Xerox and everything, taking the files from the block office, Gram Panchayat, the NGO office. That was Xerox, all the documents, their casebook, their file, record, everything, the bills, voucher, master roll. Uh, that time it was employment assurance scheme program implemented by the Gram Panchayat. So in that process, what we did after that, and one expert team also supported this community team, because they, that maybe in the engineering processes, the bill and voucher or the estimate of that particular work. So that was supported by the external people as a expert team, and that was scrutinized. And one day we did a Gram Panchayat level presentation. In that, Aruna Rai herself was the jury. She headed the jury, the district collector, the district project director of the DRDA, police SP, the local representative, block chairman, they were all in the juries. And from the community side also, one, the president of that community committee was the jury, and everything was presented. And you can't believe at that time the things they identified. For example, I'm giving one example. The Gram Panchayat has a road they have constructed, and they have actually 200 trip of tractor load muram, the red sandal, the soil. They have put in that road, and they have prepared a voucher, and they find out that there was no such tractor in that particular panchayat, and the name was not there in the master roll. Also, there were a lot of things they have identified, and they were punished by the district administration. Took it seriously. They actually took action for different people. But here, what will I learn actually? The social audit process always, if you'll see that road example, but because of that road, the road was developed by the Gram Panchayat, and because so the amount was recovered by the department or by the government. But you can see the road, if the road was constructed on time, then the people will reach to the hospital. The student will reach to the school. So that, for that, who is responsible? So in that, I have learned a very good thing in the social audit processes. And after that, when I implemented different project, I talk about the transparency mechanism, the auditing mechanism within the project period, not to, because the last 5 years we did this. So uh, within the project, how you incorporate so that such things will not happen, the project will reach to the last people. Then an external consultant, always people will hire. Also, there are people like Conclave we are doing as an external consultant for different NGOs and CSR, and combination of all two or two of the above. So there may be a combination also, the community and the different process. When you talk about then how we do it, that one is the quantitative. In quantitative, structured questionnaire, statistically significant data you need to collect. Yes, based on your project baseline, you can develop the questionnaire, you can develop the tool. Today's we are doing in mobile, and the app we are providing directly, and also the sample basis, that sample must be statistically significant, so that your data will represent your, you can talk about that. And second is the qualitative. In qualitative, we always, that was mentioned also by the ma'am, that focus group discussion, case study, you can collect case study, interviews with the community leaders and other key figures in that particular area of the project, interviews with same thing, that and also the we talk about when we talk about the interview, that we key informant interviews, we talk in the qualitative process. And sometime you can do the both, mix of both. Quantitative survey also, taking a sample size of that particular project area, and also the qualitative, so that your evaluation report, your evaluation project process will actually give a very good information, learnings, and both the process will help in building your evaluation project, evaluation report. So sometime we took, actually that depend upon the nature of the project. When you talk about the project is actually, for example, I will give example. Ki, COVID time, you have distributed food basket to the needy people. So you want to understand ki how many numbers, and in that you need a quantitative data to actually how many people you reach that is benefited to the number of people. If you want to know, I'm giving that example that whether that food, whatever the in the basket, in the packet, it is relevant, it is appropriate to the people, because there are many people projects. I'll give example, same example also. If you have heard about the 2004 tsunami, yeah, I went to I work in Andaman and Nicobar at that time with with an organization, and when I reached there, I saw that people have distributed blanket to the people in Andaman and Nicobar. You know, the Andaman Nicobar is 12, it is in throughout the year they didn't feel cold because of their geographical location. But the people, the whoever is actually distributed the relief in, they are mainlander. Mainlander means India. From India, we talk, the islanders. They are islanders, and we are actually the mainlanders. And in that, you will see that the December 26 was the tsunami when that struck the Andaman Nicobar Island and the other 12 countries actually. And they thought that it is cold time and the people are, the house is destroyed, so the people are in open air and they need the blanket. So in that, you need to have understand how it is relevant, how it is actually impacted, how it is changed the people's life. And mix of both is actually help in a quantity, quantify the numbers, your impact, and also the qualitative part of that, the process part of that you will able to capture in the quality. Yeah. So this is about the evaluation, and should I continue for the next topic also? Because it is. Hello.
Yes, yes, please do.
I'll continue.
Sure,
So,
sure.
or if you have any 1-2 question related to evaluation, then we will take, and then we'll continue to the next session.
No, you can continue.
Okay. So that was about the mainly about the evaluation, how we do it, and this is the good practices. Now we'll talk about the good practices in managing CSR project. You know that the people are nowadays CSR project that mandatory. You all know that everyone has that. I am not going to in detail, but always people see that three type of, what my experience and our experience is, that people have implementation of direct implementation. One is the periphery area development, or the through own foundation, the different companies, philanthropies organization, they have set up their own philanthropy organization and they are implementing the project. They have the staff and who are actually implementing directly. Second is through the government partnership, supporting the different government projects or issues on request of government or in collaborative approach with the government. And through civil society organization, the NGO partners, partnering with addressing a social problem. If to NGOs, the in different sector, there are very good NGOs who are actually working on ground, and they are implementing different projects with the support of CSR fund. So these are the broad category of the project, the CSR funds, from CSR funds they are implementing the CSR projects. Sorry. It will see that, sorry. building CSR into the project manager. When we talk about your corporate social responsibility into a project management process, then actually it must be a responsibility of the senior people, the management into their policies of the company, and the keeping their CSR relevant, root your objective, whatever the objective that they have to root, live by best practices or the good practices in the different CSR project. Then leader must drive changes and a responsibility to stakeholders. So these are actually, when we talk about your corporate social responsibility into a project management framework. So these are the things that have to be taken care. And now I will share this good practices which I have implemented, or I was part of this process with the CSR project. If you have heard about Government of Odisha initiative on Mo School Abhijan, anyone have heard about this?
Yes.
Yeah, the Mo School Abhijan is one of the pioneer projects of Government of Odisha. Actually, in this, they have they are doing actually mobilizing the alumni of that particular school to support for the development of the infrastructure, development of the education, different things. And I think this is going to be the world largest student alumni because there are lots of alumni. The school's alumni have joined hand and supporting the actually developing the education of Odisha, providing lot of support. But at the same time, the government of Odisha has also decided for transformation of all high schools. And there are around 8,000 high school in Odisha states. And in 4 years, this is actually the last phase is going on. Already they have covered more than 6,000. Within 3 years, they have transformed all the high school. And in that project, how they are implementing? Actually, they are mobilizing the CSR project. For example, they are providing each school 15 lakhs from the CSR. And the government has a provision, budgetary provision of matching grant, 2x matching grant to particular school. So whatever they know, they have the information about their high school. So phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. In fourth phase, they are going to complete this transformation. And in that 15 lakhs, if, for example, why I'm saying a good practice, if one CSR or the one company intend to develop all this high school, so they need huge money. At the same time, the more than maybe 5 years or 10 years they need. If one company or one CSR project will intend to do the transformation work, actually providing a quality education system or developing a quality of education in the state. So, but when these things happen, the 15 lakhs only, so that means that is win-win situation for both the CSR and the government. At the short span of time, they reach to the 8,000 high school and investing only 15 lakhs per school. And the government has provided 2x grant, 30 lakhs for 15 lakhs, then it is 2x is 30 lakhs, so 45 lakhs, which is actually a good amount to transform a high school. So in that, you will see that the learning is actually, one is the resource is maximized. Second is reach to all high school student of the state. Your reach, and the CSR also reported back to the government that we reach to so many high students in the state and improve their quality of education. Then maintain a common standard for all high school. Now the government is also able to see that in all our high school we have the common standard. If it is a government high school, then you will find a very good toilet facilities, safe drinking water provision, science lab. You have the good library and the e-library. at least for the 9 and 10, when we talk about the high school, the smart classes, good ambience, good playground, and the sports facilities. So that is the common standard for all the government high school, because any child in the state, if he is joining the high school, they are going to high school, then they will feel that my high school has also the facility and in other high school also the same facilities. And the time reduced. If you see that uh, if alone, the government alone also, if they want to do this, then they will also take more than 5 to 10 years. And the CSR also, if any company or any CSR project want to do that, that must take more than 10 years or something to reach to this 8,000 high school with. But in a short span, 2-3 years, they have reached to all the high schools. And in that process, the CSR project, they also achieve, the company also achieve a high target, and the government also achieve the high target and manage the project. Is yes, the project is actually managed by the government, this most school Abhijan people, and they have their monitoring system. They have everything, the government system, all the government mechanism is work for that. The quality work was monitored regularly. They visited the site and the block, whoever the executed agencies have executed the construction work. Also, they were from the government and they were monitored and they were given certain time to complete them. So it is actually a one example which is actually with government. The CSR project had impacted in last 2, 3 years in Odisha. And the second example I'll give with the NGO partners. I'm not taking the name of the NGOs and the corporate who have actually provided this support, but in this also they have achieved. Actually, the project is managed like, because you are talking about the good practices, and this project actually recently we have evaluated their project. And what they did actually, the project, when the project developed, they identify the issues, they develop a project, and the NGO submitted the project to the CSR fund, for CSR fund of a particular company. So the particular company, they engage a third party to do the baseline of that particular area, geographical area, their project, based on their project report, the project proposal, they develop a baseline of that, and they sanction that project. The project was implemented by the NGOs. There were certain activities for the capacity building of that particular NGOs also. The implemented process happened, and they also engage with the different experts. That NGOs, so in different sector, if they don't have the experts, so there was provision for engaging expert also. Then collaboration with government, if there are any particular activities which need a government collaboration. So that was also happened in that project, and also the other private sector for better impact. So during the implementation, they collaborated and implemented that project. And the project was again in a midterm. It is actually a 5 years project. And after 2 years and 6 months, 2 years and 6 months, they had a midterm evaluation. Again, whoever done the baseline, they did the midterm evaluation, so that if the course correction happened, the change in the implementation based on the recommendation, whatever the recommendation, the findings of that midterm review was shared, and then again it was actually corrected and incorporate the findings, and this again implemented the project. And finally, in the endline evaluation, the same organization is engaged for endline evaluation with the and that was compared with the baseline, midterm, and the endline. So then the findings and whatever they have achieved, the impact or the result, the project objective was fulfilled or not. So that finding was again shared with the NGOs, and they incorporate into the new project for the second phase. So this is actually the process they followed. And it is also what I have learned from that project evaluation, that a lot of things has changed in time, and they have also identified different issues, the bottlenecks, which is actually again it was corrected or achieved to the last project phase. So this is actually the two example I want to share, which is a good practices in which actually there are different way, but always what I learned that when you are implementing a project, you are funding, then you need to engage also some people who are expert in that, and the community itself also during the project designing and implementation phase. Then when you do the evaluation, you will get a good result, and your all the your goal of the CSR project or the organization will fulfill that. So I will stop here. I think I'm on time. 6 o'clock. So if you have any, I will stop here. And if you will have any questions, then I will take questions. Hello. If anyone has any questions. Hello, I'm audible.
Yes, sir, you're audible. The session was very good. So I personally don't have any questions.
We will close.
It seems like, yeah, it may be. But I think the step-by-step saturation model was interesting. So I'd like to actually learn more about how it can be reached to the last member. Is there a template, etc., or how does one make sure that the last beneficiary has received what they have to? That was the only question in my mind.
Okay, nowadays this model is very, for example, the government of India is also doing, when they are talking of this, the Jal Jeevan mission, they want to, if any habitation, so they are identifying the each household, whoever is residing in that particular block or area or the district, then every household must have a safe drinking water tap in that house. So whenever you are designing any project, you have to for example, you want to, what I gave that example, the saturation model is that whatever the high school in our state, we want to transform all the high school in these 3-4 years. That means you are saturating all the high schools. So in that, you can do the saturate in that particular problem. You can solve that issues or problem, and to reach to the last mile. Everyone has to be same standard, same kind of in benefit.
Great. So does it mean that the government data is also accessible for auditors?
Yes. Why not? Nowadays, the government data, you have the government data. You SCCC data is available. Everything. The deprived person data is available, and other data are also available.
Okay. Since I'm still a learner in this, can you please share where to look for the government data?
Government data is one, is that they have a website, Government of India data, they have a website. And also when we talk about the different department, depend on the topic, depend on the issues or the sector. For example, when I talk about the housing, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, I am giving you that example.
Yeah.
Government of India, Ministry of RD website, there is a separate PMOI website. You can Google it, and we'll get all the data dashboard of the Government of India, in which they have implemented which state, which village. You can get that. And the same thing, yes.
Yeah. Government of India, Ministry of?
Ministry of
Oh.
Rural Development, Ministry
Rural
of Rural, yes.
ठीक.
Every department or the every ministry has their separate nowadays the data they are like NGOs or CSR project, the government people are actually managing the data, they are collecting the data in regular basis. For example, NFHS, you know, the National Family Health Service जो data है. It will go to NFHS, you can type it NFHS 4-5, you can get the data. When we talk about, for example, how it will help. When you talk about that key, the one CSR project, for example, CSR project is saying that their project activities is they are actually they are working for the malnutrition for last 5-6 years, and they are saying that they have reduced the malnutrition. So you can cross check with the government data, NFHS data of 4 and 5, what it is saying for that particular district, particular state. Then you can compare with that also, and your own data, which is actually you are collecting in your evaluation process, the quantitative data or qualitative data, with meeting with the maybe the mothers, maybe the ICDS worker, and who are actually delivering that project
Okay.
stuff.
So when you
Yeah.
said 4 and 5, this is what phase 4 and phase 5 of the
Yes,
initiative.
every 3 years, the NFHS data, which is the actually most reliable data in the country for child health and women health. So we have that data, and all the development sector people refer to the NFHS data. When they talk about the problem, they talk about the NFHS data is showing that this particular area is a number of the malnourished child is there, the underweight children is the 55%. So that is the data they quote.
Okay, great. Thank you, sir. This is a new language to learn, so that's why I'm still asking basic questions. Thank you, sir.
It's a